Hi everybody, this is video 2 in the Simulation in Simeo refresher module, and in this video we will focus on the Simeo interface and its components. So I have a placeholder slide here that just has a picture of the interface because we're going to spend this entire video talking about Simeo, and so I'm just going to jump into Simeo right now. So now you can see I have Simeo running right here, and what we're going to discuss is the major components of the interface. So look at the major structure here. Over on the left side we have the Simeo libraries. I'm going to come back and talk about the individual libraries in a little bit more detail here in just a little bit. The library section over here, we have the facility window right here in the main part of the screen. Then over on the right side, we have the navigation window, which includes the project view and the property view. And so when we have a particular object selected, this is where we edit the Simeo properties. Across the top, we have the standard Windows ribbon interface. And so we have Project Home, which is usually the starting point, the Run ribbon, Drawing ribbon, Animation ribbon, View, Visibility. We'll see all those as we go forward. And then the Support ribbon, which I want to spend just a couple of seconds talking about. Particularly, I want to talk about this version number. This is important when you're seeking support. Generally need to know what that version number is. And it consists of three numbers: the major version, which is 14, the sprint, which is 230, and then the minor version, which in my case is 25.197. So you'll see different numbers here as people install different versions, but understanding this number or being able to provide this number when you want technical support is important. You also have the license type, and my license type is Academic RPS, and the expiration is 6/30/2022. We also see SymBits, and so hopefully you've seen SymBits in the past. We will use SymBits in the class, but they're very useful for describing individual model structure. So let me get out of that and go back into my support ribbon. There are also the examples, books and videos and so on. So it's some important information on the support ribbon. So go back to Project Home and talk a little bit more about this general structure and the libraries. We have the standard library, which consists of objects that are part of the main Simeo installation. And many times you spend most or a lot of models that you'll do are made strictly from objects from the standard library. You also have the project library, which we have the library view over on the left side, which we use to drag objects onto the facility view. And then over on the right side of the navigation window, in particular, if I click on that My Project, you can have a view of the library, which includes the individual objects. And when we have experiments, you'll be able to see those here. If we import symbols or textures or path decorators, we have access to all of those through this project view. So we also have two additional libraries that are part of the standard install. One is called the Flow library. We're not going to use the Flow library much in this class, but it has a set of objects for modeling continuous flow. And then something called the Extras library, which includes several different material handling related features that are not quite ready to be part of the standard library, but are useful for many different material handling related modeling tasks. So for Simeo, the basic process of building Simeo models, in particular if we're using the standard library objects, is we select objects from the library and drag them onto the facility view. And then we edit the corresponding properties for that object instance. So in this case, I dragged a server. So we have the server object in the standard library. And when I place it in the facility view, I've created what's called an instance of that object. And then I can specify the properties. And so by specifying the properties, it's going to determine the behavior of this particular object instance. We also can add what are called add-on processes. And so again, this is as a refresher course, I'm going through things relatively quickly that hopefully you've seen before. We'll see them again as we go through the course. But we can add add-on processes and modify the behavior even further. So for example, in this case, if I wanted to apply some Simeo logic before the processing occurs on this particular object instance, I can just double click there. And you can see that it creates that what's called an add-on process, which is just a Simeo process that is triggered by the add-on process trigger for an object instance. So we'll see that, and again, hopefully you've you've already seen that. We can use that to customize the behavior. If we look across the top, in addition to the facility view and the processes tab, we also have the definitions. And so the definitions tab is where we define Simeo elements. And then we can define properties and states associated with objects. So in this case, I have my model selected, so I can add properties or states or events or so associated with that particular model. We also have a data tab, and the data tab is where we store data tables. Data table handling is one of Simeo's strengths, and we will make extensive use of data handling in this class, probably significantly more than you did in the introductory classes, so we'll spend a lot of time in the data tab. We also have the results tab, and the results tab provides access to the Simeo pivot grid from the interactive run. So if I create a model and then execute a run, then I'm going to see the results of that interactive run within the results tab. There's also one more tab if you have the RPS version of Simeo, and that's the planning tab. And we will, as with data, we'll make extensive use of the planning tab. It's one of the major components that we do when we're doing simulation-based scheduling. And so we will see that extensively. And I'm not sure, different people coming into this class will have different Simeo backgrounds. So some of you might have seen the planning tab, but others of you might not have seen it at all. So with the planning tab, we'll basically start from ground zero. And so that is the basic structure of the Simeo interface. And so what we're going to do in the subsequent videos in this module is we're going to systematically build several different models based on a general structure, and then refresh your memory on how the basic model building and model execution and experimentation process works.